Obviously, if you're going to set a post, the first thing you have to have is a hole for the post. So we've selected a site where the corner post is going to go, and so I'm going to dig the hole. I'm going to dig it. You need to dig it a little bit bigger than the circumference of your pole, and I'll talk to you more about one certain aspect of the hole that is very important in just a minute. Alright, the hole is dug. I've got my posts are 8 feet long. I've dug a 3-foot hole. I'm going to sink the poles 3 feet in the ground, which will leave me 5 feet of the pole above the ground. Now I chose 3 feet for a couple of reasons. First of all, I want you to see that, I don't know if you can see it, I've got a mark on my post hole digger to let me know when I'm 3 feet deep. By the way, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to dig a post hole, but you do need to have a PhD. Post hole digger. I'm sorry, that's free. Anyway, a couple of reasons why I chose 3 foot deep instead of 4, instead of half of the pole. The primary reason is logistics. At the 3 foot mark on my post hole digger, that's about as far as I can go and still get a bite because of the diameter of the hole. Now, I've got a 4 foot mark up here on this pole. If I want to go 4 feet, I can. But what needs to happen is I have to make the hole a bunch wider, at least make it slope down on one side so I can open my post hole diggers wide enough to get a bite of dirt. So that's one reason. Second reason I'm sinking them 3 feet, to leave 5 feet of pole on top. The fence that we're putting on these poles is 4 feet high. That'll leave me a foot of post past the fence if I decide to add 1 string of barbed wire above the fence. Remember at the beginning I told you there was one important aspect of the hole that I would talk to you about when I got to it. Well, now's the time. And that is that the back side of the hole, and what I mean by backside is the side of the hole away from the pulling. Alright, in this case on this post, we're going to be nailing fence onto this post and we're going to be pulling it that way. The force is going to be pulling that way against this post. And so the back side of this hole, this side of the post, needs to be straight. Of course all sides need to be straight, but this side needs to be straight, because that's the back side of this hole at the bottom is important to support against the bottom of the pole. As the fence begins to pull, the top of the pole is going to want to go that way, the bottom is going to go that way. So it may seem a little counterintuitive at first, but when you think about it in terms of the action of the pole against the pulling force, then it makes sense. The back side of this hole needs to be straight so that at the bottom, against the back side of that pole, there's sufficient resistance against the pulling force of the fence when we go to install the fence. Now, the key to the success of this system is going to take place in a few minutes up near the top of this hole, but I'm going to save that secret for a few minutes. Before we get to that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start backfilling this clay just about 1 inch at a time, and I've got a stick, and I'm going to start tamping that clay down good and tight, round and round and round, around the outside of that pole. And I'm going to do that just a little bit at a time to make sure it's good and tight, round and round and round, until I get up, about 6 inches from the top of the hole. And then we're going to do something else, and that's install the secret device that's going to make this pole sturdy against the pulling force of the fence being installed. Alright, we've backfilled the hole about 1 inch at a time, tamping it down nice and firmly, about every inch or so. And we've done that. I've done that up to about 4 inches from the top. I said 6 inches before I got off of film. Hey Toby, what's up? Because if you're going to be doing a long pull, you're going to be holding in livestock or whatnot, I would recommend coming up 6 inches. 6 inches from the top. But this is a small garden fence, so I'm only coming up 4 inches. Because, why do I need that? Here's why. Because here's the key to this system. In fact, Mr. Stump called it a key. He said keying, he described it as keying a post. And I'm gonna tell you, after you've got that dirt tamped back in there, especially this clay-based soil, this post is pretty firm even without doing this key. But to hold off the pressure of pulling a fence from this post, it needs some added stability. So I'm gonna take a 2x4. Now this needs to be a treated 2x4. It's not a treated 2x4 because I don't have a treated 2x4. So I didn't cut it to any length. I found it in the barn. It's a piece of scrap. And so I'm gonna use it at the length that it is. Now I'm gonna come down here. Remember, this is the way that we're gonna be pulling the fence. So I'm gonna line it up on this post perpendicular to the line of force. I'm gonna bring it down here to the ground. I'm gonna tilt it up a little bit on a corner. I'll explain that in a minute. And I'm gonna basically scribe a line in the dirt so I can tell what I need to do with my PhD, with my post hole digger. Now, I can see the imprint of where that board was. Now, I'm gonna take my post hole diggers and I'm gonna cut that out. A little bit deeper than the width of this 2x4 because I want to be able to cover it up and not have it exposed. The reason I put it on a tilt like this is because I need this 2x4, once I get this slot cut out, as you'll see in a minute, I want to have to drive this 2x4 down in this hole. I don't want it to just fall down in there because then it'll allow play with the pole. So if I do it flat like this, the hole's going to be too wide. So I'm actually doing it like this so that I'm going to dig a little bit narrower than the width of the 2x4, so I have to take a maul and drive this thing in there. So let's do that now. I'm going to dig the hole and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, hole's dug. Now I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be quite as tight a fit as I would have liked. I wasn't thinking about it. I should have got that's a heavy set of post hole diggers to dig big old giant holes with, and they're hard to kind of be precise. I've got a lighter pair that I normally use for this process, and I just wasn't thinking. I should have got them, and I could have been more precise with the hole for this key. But I think it's going to work, and I've got it. I do have it tight enough where it won't just fit down in there. So I've got my wood splitting maul that I can drive it down where I want it, nice and tight. So that's what we're doing. Driving it down below the ground. There it is. Now there's one more step. If I were doing a very long fence pull where there's going to be lots of pressure, big heavy fence and so forth over a long distance. That is, I would dig out an area right here, and I'd take me two 16-penny nails and drive it through the 2x4 or 2x6. If it was a big long strand, by the way, that's what I meant to tell you. I was able to do just a 2x4 here, but on a long pull, I'd do a 2x6. And I'd take 2 or 3 16-penny nails and drive into that, nail this board to the post. Reason being is when you fix the fence to the post and you go to pulling, it could have a tendency to twist. It's going to hold it and keep the pole from moving this way, but it could twist. If you drive nails through that board, it'll eliminate that possibility. One more thing. Some of you may have already thought about this. This is not going to be a true corner. I've got a little short strand coming off of this side too, so I'm not worried about it. But if this were a true corner where you were pulling fence at a great strain on both sides, what about what's going to keep the pole from going this way? Well, here's the deal. You do too. I would sink this key twice as deep to give me room to put another one on top of this one going this way. Now, all that remains is to backfill and we'll be done. Well, there you have it. She's in the ground. It'd take a team of mules to pull it out of there. All because of Mr. Stump. That old fella knew some things. I hope you learned something. I believe you can put this to use right now today. Save you money. Takes a little effort, but it's sturdy without concrete.